One of the biggest pitfalls when you're first learning iOS development is understanding what to do if something goes wrong. So next, I'll show you how you can solve some common beginner mistakes. I recommend you watch this lecture even if you completed the previous exercise, because chances are you will eventually make these mistakes, so it's good to know how to deal with them. Let's dive in. Okay, I'm just going to show you a few common mistakes so you can get used to seeing what mistakes look like and understand how to fix them. So first of all, I want to show you a typo mistake. So say you're British and you like to spell color the incorrect way with C-O-L-O-U-R. Just kidding, my British friends. Anyway, you can see here we get these cryptic error messages over here. First of all, we get one up here that says failed to view content view.swift. There's a red little exclamation mark up here and over here. And here we can see a little more details. So if I click this as protocol, type any cannot conform to view because blah, blah, blah. And down here, I say value of type text has no member foreground color. This first one shows you that sometimes if you make a mistake, even a simple typo mistake like this, Xcode might not always give you the most informative error messages in the world. I mean, we'd love it if it told us the correct spelling of foreground color, at least the spelling that Apple engineers chose to use for it. But it doesn't do that. Instead, this message really has nothing to do with the actual error we're trying to fix right here. But this one's a little bit better because it's telling us, translated into English, it says this text object here, it doesn't have a method named foreground color, at least spelled that way. So that'll give us a hint to look more carefully at that and see if we might have made a mistake. And in this case, we don't want that U. So we delete it and we're all good. And both of those error messages go away. Similarly, Swift is case sensitive. So if you were to accidentally not make that uppercase, we're going to get a similar error message here. It says value of type text has no member font weight. So you just got to know that it's spelled that way. Another very common mistake is to mess up the number of parentheses here. So if you look down here at this line, this is 3 parentheses in a row. And you can imagine it's very easy to forget the number of parentheses to add and maybe put two instead of 3. So if we do that, it actually gives a helpful error here that says expected parentheses and expression list. And what I like to do when checking these things is every time you type a parentheses, Xcode will highlight the matching parentheses. So you can see here as I type this, it is highlighting in yellow the parentheses before awesome. And if I repeat that a second time, it's highlighted the parentheses before text. And a third time, the parentheses all the way up here for alert. And so you can kind of delete parentheses and re-add them to make sure you've added the proper amount. Similarly, it's easy to forget a closing curly brace. So I'm going to delete one by mistake because there were 4 in a row here, and now I only have 3 in a row. And I get a syntax error. And you can also click it up here to see where it is. And notice how by clicking that, it has opened the navigator over here, which is now selecting the 5th tab, which is the issue navigator. And this is another way where you can view your errors here. And this is especially helpful if you have a ton of them and you can just kind of scroll through them. But you can click on them over here to see more details. And it is saying that it's expecting to see a closing curly brace to match this opening curly brace. And it's a little confused about exactly where the curly brace should go, but we would have liked it maybe if it told us around this area is where the missing one was. So you're going to have to do a little digging yourself, but in this case, you can kind of go through and say, do the same kind of trick, type a closing curly brace and make sure it matches up. And you can see here that it's highlighted this one, and then I can double check this one right here by hitting a curly brace and it matches up there, so I'm good. One more really common beginner mistake is the placement of where you add your code matters. You'll learn more about how this all works as you dig more into Swift language itself later on in this learning path. But up until now, I've just been telling you where to place things, but the placement does matter. So if you were to take that property that you created earlier and make it outside of the class rather than inside the class, you'll get an error. And let's see what we got here. So it says property wrappers are not supported in top level code. And then down here it says use of unresolved identifier alert is visible. And what this means is right here, we're trying to use a piece of data called alert is visible, which is supposed to be on this class, but it's not within the class. It's outside of the class. And you'll learn more about placement, where to put things, why it matters. But for now, just need to know, just follow my example and you'll be all right. If you get an error, it might mean that you've put something in the wrong spot. So far, we've been dealing with errors, which are in red. but sometimes Xcode will give you a warning, which is in yellow. What's the difference? Well, errors are fatal. If you get one, you cannot run the app until the error is fixed. On the other hand, warnings are just informative. Xcode just says, you probably didn't mean to do this, but go ahead anyway. In my opinion, it's best to treat all warnings as if they were errors. Fix the warning before you continue, and only run your app when there are 0 warnings and 0 errors. That doesn't guarantee the app won't have any bugs, but at least they won't be silly ones.